we have removed the valve cover. Here's what we have. I have cleaned the gasket surface. Here is our camshaft sprocket back here with the timing chain. Okay, so everything is prepped and ready to go. Our gasket surface is clean. So now let's prep our valve cover. I'm gonna clean the valve cover off camera. I'm also going to clean this throttle body here. Look at all this carbon that we have. Okay, so I'm gonna clean this off camera, and then I will bring you guys back up so we can prep our valve cover. I finished cleaning the throttle body off camera. I'm done with all the cleaning. I'm gonna show you what I cleaned, and then we're gonna prep our valve cover. I have cleaned this throttle body. I got it as clean as I could. Okay, so this is clean. We're good to go. Look at all the carbon that came out of this throttle body. So I'm gonna remove this. Look at all the carbon that came out of there. Okay, so now I'm gonna remove this piece of pig mat that I put over here. Okay, so now we are ready to install our valve cover. Okay, so now let's go to the bench so we can prep our valve cover. I did clean the valve cover off camera. As you can see, our valve cover is cleaned. So I am going to replace the valve cover gasket, and then we're going to take it back to the vehicle so we can install it. I also cleaned this tube. Remember, this tube had a lot of carbon in it. So this tube is cleaned. Now let's remove the valve cover gasket. We're going to replace the gasket and the valve cover bolt. So I'm going to peel the gasket. So let's peel this off. So here comes our old gasket. I'm gonna clean the gasket groove. Now, when I was reading service information, it's recommended to apply a little bit of silicone between where the timing cover meets the cylinder head. So we're gonna apply a thin layer of silicone there before we install our valve cover. So I'm cleaning the valve cover gasket groove. So we don't want to have oil in the groove, because if you have a lot of oil in the gasket groove, that can prevent the gasket from sitting properly. Okay, so now I'm going to push these bolts down. We're going to replace the bolts. We're replacing these bolts because there are gaskets. Okay, there's a seal on these bolts that also have to be replaced. Okay, so here is our brand new gasket from Audi. I hope you can see. Here's the part number. So we're going to get this gasket out of the bag. Brand new OEM gasket. So now we're going to install our new gasket on the valve cover. So we have to make sure that the gasket lines up properly with these grooves here. Now, what I like about these OEM gaskets is that these gaskets stay on the cover very well. So if you turn the cover like this, as you can see, the gasket is not falling. One thing I have noticed is when you use aftermarket gaskets, after you install it, if you turn the cover upside down, if you turn the cover up like this, the gasket can fall, and which can make it a lot difficult to install on the vehicle, because what you don't want is having a gasket that's going to come out as you are sitting it down on the cylinder head. Because if the gasket is not sitting properly on the groove, if it moves, guess what you're going to have? A leak. So here is the part number for the bolt. I hope you can see this number. So we are going to replace the bolts for the valve cover. We have a couple of them here. We got brand new bolts. Okay, as you can see, we have brand new seals on these bolts. So now I'm gonna start installing these bolts here. So we're gonna get all these bolts installed, and then we're gonna get our valve cover to the vehicle. We're gonna get these bolts started, and then we're gonna torque them down. Okay, so we got all the bolts installed. So here are our bolts. So we're good to go. The valve cover is prepped. So now let's take it to the vehicle so we can install it. Before we install the valve cover, I'm gonna apply a little bit of silicone between where the timing cover meets with the cylinder head. I'm gonna apply just a thin layer of silicone right there. So now here comes our valve cover. We're going to install our valve cover. We have to be careful, and we have to make sure that our gasket doesn't move. Just like that. Easy peasy. The valve cover is installed, so now we're gonna get our bolts started. And then we're gonna torque these bolts down. I'm gonna get these bolts started by hand first, because what you don't wanna do is getting these bolts to cross thread. You don't want that. So after I get all these bolts started, and then I'm gonna torque them down. All right, so I got the bolts, all the bolts for the valve cover started. So now I'm gonna torque them down. The torque spec for the valve cover bolts is 90 inch-pound. So we're gonna torque the valve cover bolts to 90 inch-pound. I already have my torque wrench set up to 90 inch-pound. So now we're gonna torque these bolts. We're gonna crisscross them. So I'm gonna start with this one over here. Right there. I hope you can hear the torque wrench click. So this is torqued. So now we're gonna torque this one here. So right there, torque wrench clicked. So this is torqued. So now we're gonna torque this one up here. All right, so that's torqued. Now there's another one back here that we're gonna torque. So right there, I hope you heard the torque wrench click. So that's torqued. So now we're gonna torque this one here. So right there, this is torqued. So now we're gonna torque these three, and after that we should be good to go. All right, so this is torqued. Good. This is torqued. So now we're gonna torque our last bolt, and then we're gonna start putting everything back together. I hope you can hear the torque wrench click. So right there. So that's good. So we have torqued all the bolts for the valve cover. So we're good. Now I'm going to grab my mirror. I'm gonna look around the valve cover to make sure that our valve cover gasket is sitting properly. I know it is, but I just want to double check before we start putting everything back together. So I'm gonna use this mirror. I'm gonna go around and check the gasket. Okay, I'm looking at this mirror over here to make sure that our gasket did not move. I know it didn't move, but I just want to double check. I'm gonna need this light. So we're just double checking. Our gasket is there. Our gasket did not move. All right, so that's good. The gasket is sitting properly. So now let's continue. We have tightened the bolts for the valve cover. I'm gonna get this bungee cord removed. So at this point, everything I'm gonna do is going to be the reverse process of the removal process. So we're gonna lay our wiring back down here. Okay, so now I'm going to reinstall our fuel rail. Now when you install these fuel rails, you have to be careful. Oops, my flashlight is about to die. You have to be careful because you do not want to strip. You don't want to strip these high pressure lines. Okay, so I got the fuel supply line to the fuel rail started. So now I'm going to install the bolts for the fuel rail. So now I am going to tighten the fuel rail bolts. I have a question, guys, I need to ask you, and I want you guys to let me know in the comments how you guys deal with this, especially you guys that have shops, or if you work at a shop. How do you deal with customers that want to bring their own parts? I prefer to install OEM parts because they are better and they give me peace of mind. I mean, for the most part. But I have a customer that has found me online and he likes my videos. He wants to bring his vehicle to me for service, but he tells me that he can get his parts on Rock Auto and he wants to bring the parts to my shop. Now, being a technician and shop owner, you guys know that's not good because we make some of our money through parts also. Now, should I decline that job, or should I allow him to bring his parts so I can just charge him for the labor? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Because I noticed that a lot of people have been asking me that question. They're like, oh, can I just bring my parts? Can I bring my parts and you can just charge me labor? I like what you do, but I would like to supply my own parts. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's kind of my fault. I have allowed some customers to bring their own parts, but now I'm starting to realize that it's a mistake. So I'm curious. I want you guys to let me know in the comments, what do you do at your shop? How do you deal with that? Do you allow customers to bring their own parts? All right, so everything is going well. We got that tightened. So now I'm gonna reconnect this PCV tube. Now, the next step is gonna be installing our fuel injectors. So we're going to grab our third fuel injector. So this is the third one. Now, I do have new fuel injector copper washers. So I'm going to replace these copper washers. So I do have brand new ones that I'm going to install. So we're going to clean this. And then we're going to apply a little bit of grease here, just a tiny bit, so that our copper washer doesn't fall. So here's our brand new copper washer. Okay, so right here. And then I'm gonna remove the seal. I should have replaced this seal first. This seal that goes over here. I have brand new ones here that I'm gonna install. All right, so we got our fuel injector prepped. I always like to put a little bit of, just a tiny bit of grease on this injector. So we have our brand new copper washer right there. So now here comes our third injector. We're gonna install it just like that. So now we're gonna install our second injector. Okay. We're gonna put a little bit of grease right here. Okay, so we got a new copper washer installed. So now our fuel injector is ready to be installed. So now we're gonna install our last injector, number 1. This copper washer is stuck on the injector. So we're gonna clean this. We're gonna install our O-ring that goes over here. So before I did this job, I called the Audi dealership and I told them I need every component that you guys replace when you do this job. And they were like, sure, we're gonna give you everything you need. So they sold me all these O-rings, and this is good. This is how I like to do it, you know. When I get OEM parts and I get all the parts that I need, it gives me peace of mind. Because I know after I install everything, this is gonna run great. Okay. So our injector is prepped. All right, so we got our fuel injector prepped. We got a brand new copper washer there. So now we're gonna install our injector, just like that. We have installed our fuel injectors. So now we're gonna torque the fuel injector bolt. We are going to torque the fuel injector bolt to 79 inch-pound. So I'm going to torque the middle injector first. Once again, we're going to torque this to 79 inch-pound. So just like that. I hope you can hear the torque wrench click. So this is torqued to 79 inch-pound. So now I'm going to torque the first one, the first injector bolt. Just like that. And then we're going to torque this one here. All right, so that's good. We have torqued all our injector bolts. So these guys are torqued. So now we're going to start installing our injector supply lines. So our high pressure fuel lines that supply power to the injectors. Okay, so far so good. Everything is going back. It's pretty smoothly. So I'm going to finish this side and then I'm gonna do the passenger side off camera, and then I'll bring you guys back up so we can start the engine, and after that we're gonna wrap up this video. Then when I'm done with this, I have a BMW outside. I think it's a X3. It also needs a valve cover gasket. So I'm gonna do 2 valve cover gaskets this week on German cars. Pretty fun, right? All right, so that's good. We got this tightened. Now we're gonna do this one here. Perfect. So now we are going to route our wiring over here, and then we're going to reconnect the electrical connectors of our injectors. Okay, everything is coming back together. slowly and surely. So at this point, I'm just making sure that everything is reconnected and everything is routed properly. Okay, so now I'm reconnecting our fuel return lines just like that. Easy peasy. Man, I've been saying easy peasy a lot. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Okay, so we're good. I'm gonna reconnect this coolant hose that I disconnected back here. Okay, so everything is reconnected. We're good to go. So now we are going to install the inlet tube that goes over here. Now remember how dirty this inlet tube was? I don't know if you guys can tell. See, I cleaned it, and see how nice and clean this is. So that is good. If this car could talk, this car would be saying thank you right now. Now we're gonna install this tube. There is a little gasket that goes over here that we have to install. We have to make sure that this gasket here does not fall. Okay, so just like that, we got everything lined up. Our gasket is there. Now I'm gonna get the bolts up here started. So we are almost done on this side. We are almost there. Almost. So now I'm gonna get the EGR clamp over here. All right, so we got the bracket bolts started. I'm gonna reconnect the electrical connector of this throttle body here, and then this one here. So at this point, I'm making sure that everything is lined up. All the bolts are tightened. Okie dokie. So everything is coming back together slowly and surely. All right, so we are done. Everything is back together. I'm going to install the tube that goes over here. This inlet tube, just like that. All right, so this is tight. Now we're going to tighten this one here. Okay, I'm going to reconnect the mass airflow sensor electrical connector. So we're good to go. This is good. I'm going to put a zip tie on this sensor, on this exhaust temperature sensor wire here, and then we should be good to go. So we're going to zip tie this right here. All right, very good. So we are done with the driver's side. I'm gonna do the passenger side off camera. I'm gonna replace the valve cover gasket on the passenger side, and then I will bring you guys back up so we can start the engine. So this is how you remove and replace a valve cover gasket on a 2014 Audi Q7 with a 3.0 liter engine. So we're gonna move our fuel filter over here. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna get the valve cover on the passenger side replaced, and then I will bring you guys back up. I have replaced the valve cover gasket on the passenger side off camera, so everything is back together. I put everything back together on the passenger side. So replacing the valve cover gasket on the passenger side is the same as the driver's side, so it's basically the same process. Actually, the driver's side was a little bit more difficult than the passenger side. The passenger side was a lot easier to remove. So now I'm gonna go in the vehicle so I can start the engine. We're gonna start the engine and let it idle for a few minutes, and after that we're gonna wrap up this video. So as you can hear, the engine is running. We're gonna look around the engine bay to see if we have any leaks. The engine sounds good. I did put coolant in the cooling system off camera, so I'm gonna check the coolant level. Our coolant level is good. I'm gonna rev up the engine a little bit. I'm gonna turn off the engine. I'm gonna start it back up. So right there, one kick, baby. We're gonna look around the valve covers. We do not have an oil leak around the valve cover on the passenger side. So this is good. So now let's check out the driver's side. No oil leaks over here. No fuel leaks, no oil leaks. So we're good to go. This is fixed. We are done. So now I'm gonna turn off the engine so we can wrap up this video. So this engine sounds good. I'm gonna reinstall our engine cover. All right, guys, that's it. I'm gonna leave this right over here. This is how you remove and replace valve cover gaskets on this 2014 Audi Q7 with a 3.0 liter engine. I showed you how to replace the valve cover gasket on the driver's side. I did the passenger side off camera. It's the same process. Actually, the passenger side was a lot easier than the driver's side. So I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why so we can make better videos in the future. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. Thanks for watching. See you next time.